We have a really, really special episode today. So grab your cup of coffee, your hot chai, and let's jump into it. You're going to love it.
Yes, today we're closing the chapter on seasons 1, 2, and 3 of the International Money Cafe and serving up a tasting flight of all our and your favorite moments from all of the 3 seasons, the biggest lessons maybe, and also what's brewing for season 4 and beyond.
Love it. So think of this episode as your end of season coffee chat with us. We'll look back at some of the most meaningful episodes from the first couple seasons, share how your questions have shaped the show, and then give you a sneak peek into what's coming up next.
Yes. So season 1 was all about the basics. And it was more like, hey, what on earth is going on in this space? So it was kind of like that phase of your cross border life, right? We wanted new immigrants to the US, green card holders and expats, US citizens or green card holders living abroad, to have a starting point that wasn't just legalese and IRS forms.
And actually, when you say that, one of the early episodes that I've thought a lot about as we were talking about this is, do you remember that episode we called Not Just a Question for Hamlet, Substantial Presence Test, where we broke down what it really means to become a US tax resident and the substantial present test? Not in Shakespeare, but in plain English. And we actually walked through how days in the US are counted when you cross the line into US tax residency, and why that one threshold can completely change not only what files you form, but really your financial life in the US. I love that episode.
Yeah, me too. I kind of am really proud of that title, kind of like a riff off on to be or
Sure.
not to be. Sorry, Shakespeare and Shakespeare lovers, but that was really cute. And in another earlier episode, we tackled kind of foundational topics, like overseas assets and reporting. We were kind of building towards that free guide that is still out there on our website, folks. The one that says, are you tax compliant with your overseas assets? That guide and many of our episodes from season 1 were designed so you could at least go from, I don't know what I don't know, to, oh, okay, I think I see the road in front of me.
Which I think was really, it's when you think about cross-border life and cross-border finances, it's like you gotta start a middle, and part of the middle is life is moving along. And so when I look back and I think about season 1, if I was gonna give it like a theme, I think I would think of it as orientation. Where am I? What rules apply to me? How does my visa, residency, or my passport change my financial life? And so I do feel like with that, and you can go back to all those episodes, you can go back and really feel like we gave you a map for the very nuanced life in the US. Which then makes me think, Manasa, when you think about season 2, what stands out to you?
I love this analogy, Jane, with the whole road and the maps and the orientation and all of that. Yes, for sure. That got a good start, I think. And you're right. By season 2, we were kind of past the basics and what forms do I file? Am I really even a resident of the US? Kind of stage, and asking the next questions, maybe better questions like, how do I plan ahead? What happens if I leave the US and I retire overseas? How does the country where I'm living now, that tax system interact with the one in the US? Right?
Yeah, and I think when we got into that, it was around the time when we were seeing a lot of interest in retiring overseas. And so this makes me think of, I think it was episode 33, Guided by the Stars No More, a roadmap to retiring abroad. And we did a part 1 and part 2. It's now on YouTube and everywhere else. And we kind of took a very dreamy idea, retiring abroad, and then grounded it in hard realities like taxes, healthcare, and legal residency rules. And we really talked about what it really means to move your life, your investments, and your future income streams across borders. So you're not just following your heart, but also reading the fine print. And I think a part two of that kind of tied the whole thing together. So anybody thinking about seriously retiring overseas, I would start with those two episodes.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Because, we always keep coming back to this. It's not just the whim or the idea of doing something. You have the idea. And then when you come to the execution part of it, what's the plan? What's the blueprint? That's something that we always like to keep in our back pocket, and we want you to keep in your back pocket. Speaking of season 2 favorites, another favorite of mine was the What is English for Green Card. I think that was episode 30, as I see,
It was,
where,
yes.
yeah. And we started to unpack how your immigration status interacts with the tax status, and then how do we bring in the long term financial and tax planning into that. So I think that particular episode and some of them around that time kind of reflected a big realization that you can't separate your visa or your residency status from your tax situation. And both of those, especially in this space, cannot be separated from your financial goals. They are all a part of one story, right, Jane?
Yeah, which is, I think it's also, I can't remember exactly when I started doing this, but it kind of led me to start doing, this popular post I do on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, the intersection of immigration and
Oh, I love
finances,
that
because you're
one. Yes.
right. Oh, thank you. The two can never really be separated.
Oh, for
And
sure.
what's interesting is, people would say, they may say my immigration status is my tax status, but it's not the same thing. But the two do intersect. And then, of course, I think around that time, another episode that I've thought a lot about, and we'll keep coming back to it and we'll keep updating it actually, is I think it was episode 21, Stay Ahead of Cyber Criminals, Protecting Your Identity, because we really do need to address the growing risks around digital life and money. And so we kind of reminded you that cross border complexity plus identity theft is a nightmare combo you absolutely want to avoid. And so, like I said, I think it's something we'll probably come back to over and over again.
Yes, yes. That's definitely something that's not a static episode. So you got to keep updating that for sure. Now, kind of let's going now to season 3. By season 3, we were more comfortable, honestly, with being
True.
in front of the microphone and talking about things. And we sort of also kind of got more comfortable with being on YouTube. I think it's a big leap, just
Big,
putting
yeah.
yourself out there on camera on YouTube, especially for both of us who I think we are not that extroverted. So, yeah. But anyway, by season 3, we were kind of ready to go to the next level. Not really the deep, deep end of the pool, but almost there. We kind of saw how you, our listeners, were responding to our episodes, especially the one we did on mothers, which I think was episode 44, where we talked about wisdom from our mothers and lessons of money we carry with us. So that one wasn't just about numbers. We went a little bit into our lives and what shaped us, our cultures, our mothers, and our early experiences with money. And how we spend it, how we save it, and how we plan around that. Because both Jane and I, as you all know, if you've been listening to us for a long time, we have immigrated from other countries to the US. So we are definitely walking the same footsteps. Maybe we are a little ahead, or maybe a little behind, or maybe we're in the same place as you are. And that's where we started season 3.
Yeah, and Ashley, I'm gonna have to say something else about that Mother's Day episode because
Yes.
we shared stories. One of the stories I still remember is what my mom really talked to me about, the whole idea of quote unquote don't eat your future, and
Mm.
learning that if something affects you every day like money, you owe it to yourself to understand it well enough not to depend blindly on others. And
Hmm.
honestly, Manasa, this is a lesson that I'm passing on to my girls, just like my mom did. The idea of you need to learn this stuff, absolutely, because it does impact you, and not learning it is obviously going to have adverse effects on you. And for many listeners, that episode connected the technical side of cross border planning with the emotional and cultural side, which will explain sometimes why we sometimes hesitate, oversave, or underinvest. Probably one of my favorites, actually.
For sure. Actually, it's funny. Now that we're talking about touchy feely things, I have to tell you about this really quickly. So my daughter and I were visiting India recently, and I was talking to one of my closest role models as a mother figure to me, one of my aunts, and I asked her about what she felt when she heard that episode, and she said something that kind of really resonated with me. She said, "You have to keep all of these lessons in mind, the ones that we have learned, the money scripts in our head and what we have learned from our mothers and all of those influences. But we also need to step a little outside of it to find our own footprint or our own way of doing things." And that kind of made me think about it. And I realized that, yes, a lot of the lessons that I had learned from my mother, yes, it stayed with me in the way I think about things. But I think also that I am ready to spend money if I think that I want to go and splurge on something. So maybe
Hmm.
those are other lessons that are more conducive to this culture where we are in right now, and that is also something maybe we need to incorporate. And maybe we can talk about it a little more in an episode on season 4. Yeah.
I actually think we should, and maybe it will go along the lines of, I know we still have to talk about what's coming up, but
Yeah.
I like what you said, because when our mothers passed these lessons on to us, it was not only shaped by where they were, but by the timing of where we are. We're now in a different culture. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think we do have to incorporate that. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, coming back to season 3 and the more kind of serious stuff, we did tackle some heavy, heavy acronyms. The one that seemed to resonate with a lot of our listeners was episode 63, I believe, which was what is English for DIIRSP, or the DIRSP, like we call it. And here we really got serious. We broke down the IRS's delinquent international information return submission procedures. We explained what that was and how it could possibly be a lifeline. If you missed certain foreign reporting forms, but you don't owe extra tax and need a penalty free way to get back into compliance, with a big emphasis, of course, being on reasonable cost statements and always not trying to DIY your way through something like which could end up being a six-figure risk factor. But
Right.
that was one of the big ones, the heavy lifting we did in season 3, I think.
Yeah, so for whoever is watching this on YouTube, I'm like nodding along as Masa is talking, and I need to stop doing that. But it's just that I 100% agree every time she mentions one of these episodes. So the Durst one, for many of you, that episode was probably the first time you had those, even a structured way to fix missed filings without ruining your financial future. It really, the feedback we got was that it put language and options around this very complex topic, and it kind of gave you hope, which when we were doing it, I don't think that's a word that came to mind. But I do love that that's kind of what has come out, that there's hope, you can fix this. all isn't lost.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah.
for sure. Because when Jean and I have these experiences with our clients, when they come to us, and some of them are literally panicking because they either listen to one of our episodes talking about some things, or they read somewhere, or they read a blog, they read my blog on Substack, or they read Jane's blog, and then they were like, "Oh, should we have been doing this? We didn't. Now what do we do? Please, I mean?" So definitely, this is something that we think we kind of, some of it, like Jane said, people hadn't even heard of this before. So as we talked about that, as we moved through these seasons, you started asking us, hey, could you give us a checklist? Or do you have a template you can share with us? Do you have something that I can just take with me, and this is a step by step thing that I can check off all these boxes on what I should be doing, what maybe I should be doing next, and things like that. So that's when we put our minds together and we said, you know what we need to do is we need to build out something where people can go and maybe download these checklists. So we came up with our own store on our website, and we called it Digital Grinds, and we launched these checklists, and they are there right now on the I Am Cafe store. And so these tools, they take these themes from our episodes, like overseas asset compliance, or preparing to move abroad, or what if you're on an H-1B visa and you're planning to leave the country. So what are these things? These are our checklists which take these tasks and they turn them into things that you can, check off your list, whether you're working with a pro or you're getting yourself organized first, So I think that one is something that Jane and I are really very proud of.
Yeah, and we actually plan to add more checklists. So you did mention, for example, that checklist we did if you're leaving the US and you're on a work visa. I think we did that shortly after the elections because we had a lot of questions. And so we put our minds together. I love that checklist. It's a 52-page checklist that literally walks you through from day one. You're planning to leave, you've been accumulating assets in the US, here's how you do it. And it's actually one of the things I'm excited about, adding more checklists so people can actually do that on their own. Of course, you can always come and work with us directly with Manasa Y, but if you just want to give it a shot on your own, we're giving you some tools to do this. Now, one of the other things we did, and I think you alluded to this, is getting more comfortable with where the International Money Cafe lives. So, of course, now in addition to the website, the IMC, the imcafe.com, we're on YouTube, and you can find all these different episodes there. But what's even more exciting, and this I absolutely give Manasa 110% credit, is we've launched on
Yes.
Substack. So
Yes.
if you're someone who likes to read, highlight, and come back to ideas, you absolutely can find us there. And Manasa, do you want to say something real quick about Substack? Because you've done a really phenomenal job on that.
Thank you, Jane. I love that platform, and
I
it's
know.
yeah, and they're still evolving. They've done so much more with what you can do, and the whole, the formatting part of it on the back end, so that the listener or the reader has a better experience. And I feel like there's a lot of, there are a lot more opportunities on Substack to be interactive and even talk to each other. You could get behind the scenes in the chat room and start talking about these topics, and there are other people who are also interested in the same thing in that chat room. So definitely check us out on Substack. We are called the International Money Cafe on all our handles, YouTube or Apple or Spotify or Substack. Just go and find us, please. We would love to hear back from you, especially if you're on Substack and you give us a follow there.
Awesome.
All of this, the courses, the checklists, the YouTube channel, and Substack, we just want to meet you where you are, and whatever format works best for you. That's why we want to expand to other things. And of course, we find it more exciting as well, to go
Absolutely.
to the next shiny thing. Well, at least me.
But I do want to say, I still think, I mean, the website, the imcafe.com is
Yes,
really the
is our
home.
main thing. Yes.
But yeah, if you want to consume in other formats, that's where you can find us in other things. So really, I think the whole idea with these episodes is to say we really want to say thank you so much before we even talk about what's next.
Yes.
We really appreciate you listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Substack, and directly from our website. Every download, every share, every review, every comment, tells the algorithms we're not just talking to ourselves here, but we're actually reaching out to you. And we know we are very specific about the topics that we talk about. So anytime somebody finds us and it helps them, even if it's only one person, we are so appreciative, and we really, really appreciate you listening to our stories. And so I think, should we talk about what we want to do next, Manasa?
Yes, but before we go into that, I
Mhm.
have to also here give a shout out to all of our silent listeners and our silent
Yeah.
followers and my own friends, who and family, of course. Well, I think the family doesn't have a choice on whether they should listen to or not. But my dear friends, people who have reached out to me and my clients. In fact, I was sharing this with Jane before the episode. Like, I actually have a client and I know you're listening, so you know who you are. She said she makes it a point to go out and read one of my blog posts or listen to one of our episodes every morning with her coffee. So
Oh,
she's actually drinking her coffee with us, So, and then with the other
awesome.
friends who reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? That thing that you guys posted and you talked about, it was amazing. It was just spot on and it was really relevant to my situation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That really gives the wind beneath our wings, to get going and keep doing this, of course. And also a request, for you to not be silent anymore. Maybe just share it with your friends privately if you're not a public person, or that like Jane said, it helps our algorithms. The more the episodes are shared, the more people get to listen to this. It's pushed out to more people thanks to the algorithm gods, like we call them.
Yeah, and I
So,
guess thanks to all that are sharing, I actually have a prospect call next week, and they said somebody send them to the podcast. And
yeah,
so that's why they're setting up time to talk. So, yeah, so what
yeah,
you're saying is absolutely right. We really
yeah,
appreciate it. So,
yeah.
let's talk about what's upcoming in episode 4.
I know, season 4. Oh, what's brewing, Jane? What's brewing on
Yeah.
season 4? Yes, yes.
Okay. So lots of podcast episodes, of course, we'll keep doing that. So that part is not changing. That's like the baseline.
Yeah.
And part of what we're going to do with the episodes, because as we said that our mother episode really resonated, we're probably going to talk more about, I mean, we do talk about our lived experiences, but we're going to dig more into it because we continue living this life. And now we're at a stage where obviously we're not starting out. Our kids have grown and we're seeing interesting interactions. And I think it all has to do with where we're coming from. We
Yeah.
are planning on doing a couple webinars that dig into the nitty gritty details we've only had time to touch on in episodes. So more like think step by step ideas with examples and live Q&A, so you can actually see how some of these rules work and hopefully get to ask questions live.
For sure. The webinars are what we have been planning for a long time, and we're really looking forward to launching those and, getting more content to you to be very specific. It's definitely something that we are working on in a very complex manner, and we're going to bring them out to you soon. And then also for season 4, we're going to bring you more case study episodes because we think we have built a strong base right now, and we really want to get into more depth and more interaction. And of course, some few fun extras, if you would like to call it that way. I mean, for us nerds, we like this stuff. But the case study episodes, it's not just talking about rules in isolation, right? These will definitely be anonymous, but they are based off of real life scenarios that Jane and I have seen in dealing with various clients, and a lot of different things that happen and how we put things together for them. So it could look a lot like what you are living through and what your particular situation is right now, and you would resonate with that. Yes.
I love that. I think the specificity, I hope I said
Yes.
that right, I think will
Yes.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we're planning on doing, we talked about this when we initially started, but we haven't done it yet.
Mhm.
For this season, we're planning on inviting a few, and we're very specific about this, just a very few selected guests, just a few, people that we admire in the industry, just so you can get more perspective on cross-border life, money planning, not just us, but it will be very specific. I don't want to go into too many details about what they'll be addressing, but it'll be very specific topics that I think you'll find value in. I think that's all I'm going to say about the guest. Once we get ready to do it, you'll obviously get more info on that.
Yes. And of course, something else that we are really, really excited about, and you can see me holding one of those things,
Love it.
much that actually speaks to cross-border life. Not just some generic podcast swag, okay? These will be pieces that reflect what it feels like to juggle countries, currencies, and compliance and all at the same time. And, we do have a fun side, folks, and we would like you all to see that and then maybe participate in it as well. Yes.
So actually, the one I'm really looking forward to is my DERS Survivor Notebook. That's
Yes.
all I'm gonna say. I think the whole idea is it's gonna be something an immigrant, an expat, or visa holder would get, almost like an inside joke. So
Yeah.
it's actually something we're really excited about. So
Oh,
let's
for
see what
sure.
happens.
Yes,
Do you want
yes,
to talk about the
yes.
next thing?
Yeah. I mean, you know what, dear listener, we are actually a little nervous, and you'll understand why, because we are putting this out there and we are now going to kind of think that we'll be held accountable for this. But we don't mind that. So, this is a big maybe that is slowly turning into a when. It's going to be a book. I said it, Jane.
That's fine. It's
All
all
right.
good. Let's put it out there.
Yeah, let's do that. Yes. So, folks, this is going to be a book that pulls together the best of what we have shared here, plus stories and frameworks that we don't have room to put on episodes, into something that you can keep within your arm's reach. Maybe, well, I don't know if it would be a bedside reading, but hey, you
I
never
I,
know.
I think just leave it at that.
Yes.
You've already put it out there, and we'll just
Yes.
leave it at that and say, okay, help us. So anyway,
Yes.
it's all good. I mean, because it's something we really talked a lot about, and we can see the need, but we're only gonna do it if it makes sense. And so
Yes.
before we've talked a lot about things we want to do, honestly, and it's a lot. It feels like we need to clone ourselves, but before we do that, we really want to ensure that these are things that would be of value to you, or dear listeners. And so would love to get some input, especially on the webinars and the cross-border case studies, as well as more checklists. And so, Manasa, do you want to explain how we're going to do this?
For sure. At the end of this episode and in our show notes, we are going to share a link to a survey where you can vote on which topic you want us to cover first. You can maybe suggest your own ideas, etc. So, season 4 starts with exactly what you need most. And that's where we want to go next. Not just have our own plan and roadmap in place, but we also want your input on that roadmap on where we need to make stops. So definitely look for this survey and please participate in it. We really look forward to seeing what your responses are, and that to guide us in getting a season 4 together that will be very helpful to you and bring you even more value.
And so, actually, before we close out of this, one thing I do want to say is we are actually taking the month of August off. So this is the
Yes.
last episode this year, which is end of July is our last episode. We'll take August off to just kind of regroup and sort of look at all the feedback that we get and get started. And so episode 4, I'm sorry, will be starting season. I'm so sorry. Okay. Season 5 starts beginning of September. Now, before we do the final close, Manasa, anything else you want to add to this?
You know what? We may also send out a few things to you along with the survey, and we'll put this out there on LinkedIn and our other social media channels. It's going to be a kind of a survey, but also sort of taking your votes on where you want us to go with the webinars, whether it's an H1B cross-border reporting, maybe L1 executives, and, like gifts and inheritances and so on. So we would definitely like for you to participate in that, like I already said. And also, give us feedback on all of the content, merch, and whatever else that you think you want to hear.
And I think with that, shall we say we'll see you in season 4?
Absolutely. So until then, all of our episodes rest in Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. You can go find us there, or our website, theimcafe.com, THEIMCAFE.com. See you all in season 4, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, bye.